Welcome back, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and in today's episode, we continue with our series of videos from the 2024 Baltimore Comic-Con. And we also finish up with a sub-series of videos devoted to meeting the comic book creators and getting books signed. Well, in this episode, we're going to end up meeting Don Rosa, we're going to get books signed by Jeff Loeb, and we'll end up with the big signing with Jim Lee. But before we do that, before we get into the video and I show you all the clips that I took, definitely hit that like, slap the subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you guys don't miss out on any of the episodes that I put out each and every week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 3 p.m. All right, guys, sit back, enjoy some of the footage, and I'll come back and I'll show off some of the books I got signed, and we'll have some commentary.
This one too. It's like one little thing.
Yeah, we got one. You left one spot on there.
If I'm going to sign something, I want to do it so you can read it clearly. Big black area, and I got a silver pen.
Nice.
So then, of course, it skips. Was there two of them here? I had two silver pens. No, I just going to shake that one harder. Maybe I haven't used it this morning.
Maybe not. I've got silver Sharpie if you want to do that.
Well, those aren't as good, but they might have to. But they don't have this problem. Sharpie. Well, let me try it. This was just a moment ago. Maybe it's.
Could be the slickness there.
I can't go back over it because then it's forged. Even if I do it, I forge my own signature.
It's true. Well, these are just for me anyway, so.
Okay, well, the rest of them, I guess, are.
Very good. Yeah.
Who can I sign that to?
Do it for me. It's for Rusty, R-U-S-T-Y.
I got a haircut. Maybe not so much now, but in recent years, I pick up the hairs on my. Let's see, every three. There's one white one, one black one, and one red one.
Sometimes I'll catch the light.
And the light.
The
yes,
light.
that's right.
That's about the only time.
Roll this up.
No, I've got a cardboard here. I'll throw it right into this.
I've got a table here for you to work on. It's easier to do it here than in midair someplace.
Go right there.
Like so.
Thank you, sir. What do I owe you?
Just $20. Don't let it slide out of there. You want a rubber band so it can't slide out? I can put rubber bands.
No, it's okay because I've got a holder there too. I don't slide right in there.
Okay. And I already shook your hand. I'll do it.
We get again. I get 2 handshakes today. Thank you, sir. All right, thank you. Hey, how you doing?
Not too bad.
All right, I've got 6 things.
Beautiful. I'm gonna get a board for you. Right. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay these on the board.
Yep. Can I give you these?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. So I got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Beautiful. Yep. So just facing Mr. Lee. Perfect. Did you want any of these personalized today?
No.
All right. Sounds good.
Can
man.
put all those together, and then this one is in an interior.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Not a problem. Love it. Beautiful. Yep. So if you just want to sign one down there, then I'm going to make sure that you are responsible for this whole thing here. Perfect. Yep. There it is. All right. And then this is just going to move with you.
Sounds good.
Beautiful.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
You got it, man.
Hello.
Just slide it down conveyor belt style.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed some of that footage, had fun meeting all these creators. And the one thing I will say is what was not in there. When I said I was only getting books signed by Jeff Loeb, well, what happened was I completely forgot to have the camera on when I met him. And it was very nice talking to him. And I'll talk about that as we go through this. But the first one that we met was Don Rosa. And I have gotten autographs from him over the years. I've gotten sketch cards from him before. He's always very nice. And he always insists that you sit down with him so he can have a conversation with you and have a little one-on-one time with him. And that's always pretty cool. And so you get a little bit of that conversation in the video right there. And I did have 4 books that I brought to get signed. And it is part of his Uncle Scrooge books that he was doing for Gladstone many years ago now. This was, I guess, the first issue in the Uncle Scrooge line that he did. This is issue number 281. Has a beautiful detailed cover right there. And as you can see, he signed right there, if you can pick it up. And then I had a few more issues from his comics where he was doing the life and times of Scrooge McDuck. And I've gotten some of these signed over the years. Not all of them, but I continue to pick up a few of these over the years. I had these in my PC. I was buying these when they came out live. And I've been pulling them out of the PC and getting them signed over the years. I usually would get the ones signed that had better signing areas first. That was kind of the method I was using to get the better cover signed first, or the ones that at least had the autograph area, a better area for it first. But I went ahead and continued trying to complete the series. This is issue 287. And this one he signed on the side right there. Sorry, the glare is just a little bit. Let me see if I can turn that just a little bit there. Oh yeah, there you can see it there. He had a little trouble with his silver paint pen, so I had to give him my silver Sharpie. It is not the best autograph. Honestly, this is one of those ones, it was such a bad autograph to begin with the pen that wasn't working, and I have talked about that before with a lot of the creators, Sanford Green, for example, not testing their pens out. They just literally take a paint pen and go to your book, and they haven't even tested to make sure that ink is flowing right. There are artists out there that actually take the time and really care about what they're giving you. And I'm not saying that they don't care, but they're not thinking about your item that much. They're just signing and taking money. And not saying that Don Rosa was doing that. Basically, I just really want them to test the pen. That's all I'm asking. Test the pen and then go to your book. That's all I really want. Okay, I digress once again. Continuing with this, there was issue number 288. That one actually had a pretty nice signing area right there. I don't know why I hadn't already done that one. And then issue 289. And he actually split his autograph up here at the top. You can see Don Rosa right there. So I got those signed. And one of the ones that I did not bring in were the last books in this, I believe it was 12 issues, The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. And it is issue number 295 in particular. It is the book that has gotten banned by Disney. They will never reprint that book again. And one of the reasons that I have never got it signed was during the last few issues of this run on Scrooge McDuck, Gladstone switched from the glossy covers that you see right here to a newsprint cover that was the same paper as the interior. And you guys know if you put Sharpie to that, it's going to bleed. And I never wanted to get that book, those last few books signed, because I was afraid that we're going to end up with basically bleeding Sharpie in those papers. So I never brought those in. In fact, that issue number 295, I may pull just to have it graded and preserved at some point, but I doubt that I will ever get it signed. So I will not probably finish this series, but I will get the majority of these Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck books done. In fact, I may be done at this point. I think it's all except for the final 3. But that wasn't the only thing I got from Don Rosa. I actually got this beautiful Scrooge McDuck print right here. I'm sure this was the cover to one of the books, but I don't remember which one. And he signed it for Rusty, Don Rosa. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And that will end up here on the wall at some point. we'll put it up sometime after that. In the future, hopefully you'll see that in the videos. But from there, in the video, you see me going to the Jim Lee signing. But before I did that, I went to see Jeff Loeb. And Jeff Loeb is a absolute brilliant writer. He's the creative genius that worked with Tim Sale on the Batman, The Long Halloween. Multiple books at Marvel, a lot of Marvel books. He was the producer, I believe he was the producer on and the creative force behind the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on ABC, the TV series. And unfortunately, I forgot to turn the camera on when I was talking to him, but I got to have that moment where he's signing some of the books. And I got to say, hey, I was such a big fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I got to tell him back in 2014, when you were doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it flipped the script in that season 1, you got to the 8th episode, and then that weekend, Captain America, the Winter Soldier came out. And then the next week, the show completely changed at that point. I thought it was one of the best moments in MCU history. And I got to tell the person who most likely was behind a lot of that. And that felt really good to be able to share what I really liked about the work that he's put out there. But I did get a few books signed. And I've got 3 books that I brought that you're not going to see today. But I brought copies of Batman issue number 608, the first issue of the Hush miniseries with Jim Lee that he wrote. Now, these books were actually copies from the McFarlane's toy line that I planned on taking to Jim Lee as well and submitting them to CGC. That's why you're not seeing the books today. But I did have a couple other books that I had him sign. And in fact, I had my own issue of 608, the regular copy. But if you notice, well, there's his signature, but down here at the bottom is Jim Lee. I'd gotten Jim Lee probably 10 years ago on this book right here. And I've been holding on to it all this time. Never thought about grading it or anything. But I also got the last issue in the series, 619. It's funny, I didn't really care about getting issue 609 done years ago by Jim Lee. Even though that was the first appearance of Tommy Elliott, it just didn't dawn on me. I was going for what I thought were the best covers, to be honest. The first issue right there, and then this last one is a gatefold. It folds out and you see all the villains and everything. Those are the ones I got, and this is all I gave to Jeff Loeb. I take it back. There's actually one other. I did have issue 609 as well. 609 I'd gotten Jim Lee to sign 2 years ago, and I had it graded, and I broke it out just for this occasion so I could press it again because I wasn't happy with the grade, and 2, then I could go ahead and add Jeff Loeb to that and then resubmit to CGC. You're not going to see any of that part of the process at this point, but that's the idea on that book. So let's do a recap real quick on Jeff Loeb. These 2 books you see, these are for the PC. I had issue 609 that I had him sign, that Jim Lee had already signed, that I am resubmitting to CGC. And then I had 3 copies of Batman, the first issue, this issue, but it was the McFarlane toy line variant on that. It has the cover from the second printing, but it's the comic that they put into this toy line from McFarlane Toys. So it looks just like the second print cover, basically. So those all went to CGC, and at some points you'll see those in a future video. So after finishing up with Jeff Loeb, this was a Saturday afternoon, I ended up going up. You see me go up the escalator, and you see me go up to another part of the convention center here in Baltimore. And we get in line, and I was in the last group, the silver group. And these were if you bought single tickets, not a group of... You could buy a gold package that had, I think, 3 autographs in it. You could buy a platinum that had 5 autographs, I think, in it. And I waited too long. I couldn't get a package, so I ended up buying individual Jim Lee tickets. So we were in the last group of the day. And it was kind of interesting. They were running behind schedule. Once we were in the line, they waited until they finished up with all the gold signatures. And then they let us in, but only then after a half-hour delay because Jim Lee actually had been signing most of the day. He had to take a break. So instead of starting at 4:30, he actually started about 5:15. And people were getting a little nervous, didn't think they were going to get through. And then the other thing that they asked because they were so behind schedule is, one, you're not taking a picture with Jim Lee. So you lost that opportunity. And two, if you watch the video, you see them put my books on a board, piece of foam board, and I carry it over to Jim Lee. So it was easier for him just to sign everything and me to take the board away all in one fell swoop. So it was doing little things like that to speed up the process. So it wasn't the most interactive experience. Also, they had asked me to turn off the camera when I was in there because they could see that it was strapped on my chest and running. So I did turn it off after you see that last clip with Jim Lee. So that's why you don't see it anymore. So anyway, let's get into the books. That's why we're here, right? So as I said before, the 3 books from Jeff Loeb, the issue 608, the McFarlane variants, were 3 of the things that I got signed, and I ended up taking those as well as the book, the issue 609. I took those out and met with the CG's representative who ended up putting them back into bags, verifying that I got the signatures, and those I'll eventually, in a future episode, you'll see me putting those into a CGC submission. I do all that on Sunday. But the other books I actually got signed were these right here. Let's start with Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, issue number 50. You got this great Brian Bolland cover right there. And not on the cover. This is an interior autograph. And the reason I did an interior autograph on this is that Jim Lee did a pinup in the pinup section right here of Batman. And in this book is a whole pinup section in the back here. And I wanted to add Jim Lee to this because there's Walt Simonson right there, right down below. I've got on this page, on the left page right here, there's Kevin Maguire. Brian Stilfreeze right there. You can see it on the edge in the middle towards the spine. You've got Kevin Nolan right over here down below. And on this page, this left page, I've actually got Jeff Schultz and Al Williamson who did the inking on that. And then I'm trying to think if there's anybody else in here. Right here is, I'm holding, my fingers are over it. That's Mike Kaluta who signed that one. And then the last page right there, it's a little hard to see because he signed the ball pen, was Mike Zeck. So this has been a pretty good project piece, but it's not one that I can display with the signatures because everything was on the interior. But for interior, I did this. I've been getting this since May, since I was doing the Fan Expo. This is the Countdown to Infinite Crisis number 0. And you've got this Jim Lee, Alex Ross cover right there. And eventually I want to get Alex Ross. I'll have to send it in for a signing at some point. But on the other autographs were right there, Jeff Johns. You guys, if you follow the channel, you probably saw this earlier this year. I've got, who we got? We got Rags Morales down here at the bottom. Jimmy Palminotti right there. I think that's it. Yeah, it's the 4 autographs right there. And then the 5th, there's a couple more autographs I want to get on here. Obviously, Alex Ross because of the cover. I'm looking at the list on the back. Phil Jimenez is actually the other one I kind of really want. There's a few more creators on this book, but I definitely want to get those, especially Alex Ross. And then another project piece. Here, let me put these books down. Is Detective Comics 1000, and I'm leaving it in the window bag that I've got here because it's a square bound and I don't like taking this book in and out too much. And you can see it's a Frank Miller cover, and you can see all kinds of autographs on here. And Jim Lee signed right there. And we're doing pretty good on this. I'm going to read you the list. We've got James Tinian, Brian Michael Bendis, Steve Epting, Brad Anderson, the colorist, Peter Tomasi, Christopher Priest, Jeff Johns, Jason Fabic, Amanda Connor, Scott Snyder, and now Jim Lee. So this one right here is one that I've got to get Frank Miller to sign this at one point. That's the whole point. It's his cover right there. This was his variant on this issue. So I've got to get that at some point. But guys, that is everything I got signed for these last 3 creators in this series. This wraps up the series of getting artists to sign mostly the books. Now, there was a little bit of CGC in this episode, but you don't see any of this process. I didn't film really much of that part of it for here. But in the next upcoming videos, as I wrap up this whole series of videos for the 2024 Baltimore Comic-Con, we'll have an episode where I'm going to actually go to a couple of artists exclusively just to get CGC witness so that I can submit them to CGC. I believe we've got Al Milgram, we've got Steve Epting, and Klaus Janson was the third. And that will be its own special episode set aside from this regular signing series. So technically there's one more episode dealing with meeting the creators and getting things signed, but that one's exclusively about the submission to CGC and having a witness go along with you. So that you'll see in probably the next episode after this one. But guys, that is it for today. Definitely leave me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about the books I got signed, and if you've ever got to meet any of these creators, I would love to know. So that's it, guys. I'm out of here. You guys have a great day, and remember, every comic has a story.